Hello, and welcome to the Empowerography Podcast. This is a platform created for women's voices to be heard and a place to share their stories, journeys, and successes with the world for the purpose of helping other women who might be on similar journeys. We are empowering women one episode at a time. I'm your host, Brad Walsh, so kick back, grab one of your favorite beverages, and enjoy the stories. Jewelry that makes an impact on your self-care routine and your style, Empowerography would love to offer you a discount code to one of our exclusive partners, Quartz and Canary Jewelry and Wellness Company. Please use code EMPOWER15 to receive 15% off upon checkout at www.quartzandcanary.com. Quartz and Canary is truly the place where spirituality meets style. Hello there, Brad Walsh here, your host of the Empowerography Podcast. Today, my guest is Reem Khan. She is a diversified serial entrepreneur based in King City. How are you doing today, Reem?
I'm great, Brad. How are you?
I'm doing very well, aside from this ton of snow we got overnight, which I'm sure you are not too pleased about either, with the kids supposedly going back to school today.
Well, that's what it is, right? Tomorrow's another day, but that was a little bit anticlimactic. We were all looking forward to it, and that's all right. Things are not always going to work out the way we want, right, Brad?
That's right. That's right. I just want to say thank you so very much for taking the time to be here with me today, Reem, and share a bit about your story and your journey. I appreciate you taking the time, and I appreciate you being part of the Empowerography community.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me. And I truly think that, only when we tell our stories can we really lay out a realistic idea of what this life is all about and what it actually takes to make it through and, hopefully be successful and happy.
Absolutely. So let's jump right in. As I mentioned, you are a serial entrepreneur. You own a few businesses with your husband. You're a wife. And of course, I'm sure the most rewarding job of all, your mother. How on earth do you find the time to do all that you do and prioritize? Because, you and I spoke before this, and all of the things you've got your hands in, all the things it's just, wow. So how do you find the time?
Well, I think sometimes you just kind of have to go with the flow. I think in a way things got sort of, how do I put it? They kind of incrementally piled on. Pardon me if I'm beeping out. I've got another line. I have to try to get rid of here. There we go. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
That's live audio for you. So I think things just kind of happened slowly over time. I was not a born entrepreneur. It wasn't really in my nature. I didn't know that I wanted to own a business. I knew I wanted to be in business. I knew that I wanted to help people. Yeah. And that's actually what led me to pursue my bachelor's in commerce and HR management. It was just an area that I felt like I could help not only people find a job, but the people within companies to hire people, right? And to help fulfill and grow their organizational needs. So that's kind of how I stumbled into it. So I did end up working for a small recruitment firm. And that's actually where I met my husband. So okay. That started the journey into our entrepreneurship together.
Right. Now, you started in the world of HR management and recruitment. Can you tell us a bit about the beginnings of your entrepreneurial journey in that world?
Sure. So after I had my first son, we kind of decided that it was the right time for us to pursue our own entrepreneurial venture. So back in 2006, we took on actually just one client that was a retained client. That's what sort of helped us launch that business. So we started a company actually from home initially, and you kind of have to go through the motions of finding the right office space. And so we did. And over 11 years, we grew that into 3 locations across the GTA.
Wow.
Actually, one of them was in Hamilton, so I guess technically that was outside the GTA. So we had one in North York, downtown Toronto, and Hamilton. And we actually sold that company 11 years down the road. And that was a big transition point for us, actually.
Okay. Now, what's the name of your recruitment company, and why did you decide to start a business in recruitment?
My recruitment company is called Accuracity. So it's sort of a combination of accuracy and velocity. We sort of have this idea of, do things quickly but accurately, right?
Yeah. I love it.
And that came about when we sold our first company, Pentacan. We had a bit of a life-changing event that we can get to maybe a little bit later in the conversation. Mm-hmm. And that prompted us to look at just our family as a whole and how we wanted to spend our time and how we were going to sort of continue the rest of our careers. And that ended up sort of, I would say, transforming, let's say, the recruiting organization into a more focused company that was focused on permanent recruitment. So a lot of the contract-based recruitment was what we were looking to move away from. That was an extremely time-consuming, never-ending work weekends, work nights, submit resumes at 1 a.m. type of a situation. And so that was that turning point where we ended up selling the company. And I kept on my permanent clients, which, I've had for over 10 years, and I work with them on a regular basis. And so that's actually how Accuracity came about. So it was an interesting time because you're going back to your clients and literally saying, we sold the company, but I would like you to re-sign our contracts, and like crossing your fingers and hoping they're not going to take the opportunity to renegotiate all the fees, right? Because that's what generally can happen. So that's how that came about.
And how long have you been involved in that world in the whole world of recruitment? And I mean, from when you were working for another company to now running your own business in that world, how long in total have you been involved in that world, would you say?
Well, it's kind of crazy looking at it now, how quickly time has passed, but it'll be 18 years this summer.
Wow.
And before that, my husband actually ran recruiting firms in the States before he moved up to Canada. So I guess he's been doing it a lot longer than I have.
Wow. What is it that excites or inspires you most about that world?
I think it's ever changing. It's really incredible to see how, I started out in recruiting in the manufacturing and automotive sector, which has kind of depleted in Ontario these days, and got into technology and somehow found myself in sales recruiting. And then I really got into a niche of confidential recruits, all these kind of confidential searches where either there's someone who has to be replaced or, a company's launching a new business and they don't want it, being out there to their competition, that they're getting into a certain industry or certain area. So I found those to be really exciting because it's also secretive and sort of, I don't know, just a little bit different than your typical post a job and wait for someone to apply. You know what I mean? So, and that's been my focus is mostly headhunting.
Okay.
So really reaching out to individuals that are maybe passively looking or not looking at all, and being that person that shines the light on a new opportunity, which, you asked me about what I find rewarding.
Yeah.
I get so much feedback from people that are just open to listen. We're never really looking and end up finding the best opportunity of their life. And, and they call you and say, this came out of nowhere. I am so glad I gave you the chance to tell me about this role. And this is the best decision I could have made for my career. I mean, that's extremely rewarding.
Oh, I can only imagine, for sure. Now, I read that your recruitment business is a majority of female and visible minority run business. Was this intentional?
So actually, when we ended up selling our first recruiting company, we ended up utilizing one of the corporations that we had that was 50-50 between myself and my husband. So, he's of Indian heritage and I'm of Middle Eastern heritage. So the visible minority piece was not planned. It just kind of worked out that way.
I was thinking more along the lines of the female.
Well, I was just going to lead into that because that's actually what an organization had come to us saying that they had Canadian companies that were looking to bring on suppliers of visible minorities and other minorities. And as we were going through the discussion with them, they asked if we were female owned. And we said, well, yeah, partially. And it seemed like it made sense to be majority female owned because that would have given us a little bit more exposure to some of the other large businesses. And so, basically we slightly changed the split in equity between myself and my husband. And, ultimately, he was pursuing other opportunities and other businesses as well that he was going to be spending most of his time on. And so it made sense that as I was going to be operationally running the company, more so on a day-to-day basis, it just kind of fell into place really nicely.
Now, the HR world is typically more female dominated anyways, correct?
Well, it's interesting. It's majority from what I've seen of recruiters and HR professionals are female, but incidentally, most of the leadership is actually not. And that's something that I'd love to kind of be able to work with changing across the board, not just in that industry, but in so many others. I think that just because of a lot of different circumstances, whether it's, inherent biases, and also just time, right? A lot of women that do end up getting the kind of experience you need to lead an organization or start an organization like this, oftentimes will have families, and it becomes difficult to juggle. I mean, we all struggle with it every day.
Yeah.
And so, you tend to see the leadership roles, a lot of them do go to men, unfortunately.
Right.
There's a little bit of a lack of balance there.
Now, speaking of your goal and shifting that way of thinking and shifting that optic of having more women in positions of power and whatnot, what are your thoughts on the landscape of entrepreneurship and women-run businesses? Are you seeing a shift in terms of more women making the jump into entrepreneurship? And if so, why do you think that is? Why do you think it's starting to change?
I do. I think that, with the pursuit of work-life balance and so many other things that we take on in our lives, I do think that it is more difficult to, let's say, come across good part-time positions or positions that accommodate for flexibility. And oftentimes that becomes the driving force to go into an entrepreneurial role. What I do see a lot of is, and kudos to them, but one thing I've noticed at least is that many women end up pursuing sort of the self-proprietorship type entrepreneurial ventures. So either they're a professional of some sort, like a doctor or a dentist that opens their own clinic, or they have, or they're a coach, or they're a yoga teacher, or, something like that, that sort of ends up being a lot of times a one-woman show or, with a small staff.
Right.
And I am definitely seeing more of a trend towards STEM and tech-based industries that are female-led and female-owned. So you're definitely seeing a lot of, glass ceilings being broken there, and just a lot more openness from society in general, and I think from our allies, from the men around us that support, that support women in those sort of non-traditional female roles.
Do you think that we're starting to remove or get rid of that old boys club mentality from the 40s and 30s? And have you seen that starting to change as well?
You know what, it is, but it depends on the industry. There are some industries that are, that have women leaders in them, but it is just so much more difficult for them to navigate and to not be underestimated. I've heard so many stories from women, women that walk into an office and they're a leader, but they get sort of mistaken for an intern because they're young and they're beautiful, and they, they may not exude that, the perception of what a leader looks like, right? So, so I think there are still biases that need to be broken, and we break those boundaries every day. But we do need the help. We need the support from the men as well, I would say.
Yeah, I was just going to say, what do you think we can continue to do? What do you think the steps are to continue doing this? And so we do completely remove that whole mentality, of that old boys club mentality, and shift. I mean, I think that I've seen anyways, since I started the podcast and been more focused on it, that I think women are getting tired of the corporations not giving them their due, and so they're saying, you know what, enough of this shit. I'm going to go out on my own and be my own CEO.
That's true. That happens as well. And what tends to happen in those situations a lot is that they need to bootstrap it. There are still challenges in getting initial funding for organizations, especially for someone that's never had a business before, never run a business before. And I think that women, do still have challenges with getting loans from banks.
Right.
That is a stumbling block for a lot of female entrepreneurs, and more so BIPOC female entrepreneurs. And so, for women of color, it's just exponentially more difficult. And I think that's why, we need to continue to rely on family members and friends for startup money sometimes for businesses to grow and then prove themselves. And I think only when that happens does it sort of become more of the norm. Right. And when we start seeing things like, the Deloitte Fast 50 have more women-owned tech businesses, that's when that, you've kind of cracked some of those barriers and those walls.
Yeah. Now, speaking of businesses and entrepreneurship, and you're also the co-founder of Show Jump for Heart. Can you tell us a bit about the Show Jump for Heart charity show and what it's all about, as well as the inspiration behind it?
Sure, I can start with how it came about.
Sure,
So I touched on earlier sort of a transformational time in our lives when my husband was in his early to mid 40s. He actually had a surprise heart attack, and we didn't see it coming. He was actually,
so
he was actually,
young.
He was an equestrian. He had been a national level rider back in India. He had a gold medal in eventing, and he'd taken that back up again here in Canada. And so he was riding, essentially exercising at least 4 to 5 days a week with no health issues. His blood work and all of that, like none of that, no cholesterol, nothing. So it really came as a surprise. And we've always been focused on our health and, done our annual physicals and all of that. And so, that was, again, part of the reason why we decided to, kind of get a little bit out of some of the parts of our recruiting business. And, he really did a lot of soul searching about what he wanted to do the rest of his life and be passionate about what he was doing. And it came back to the horses. And so he ended up investing in horses, and, and then at one point we thought, how do we give back? Because through that whole journey of the heart attack, the open heart surgery, and just even getting to know the Heart and Stroke Foundation, my son had a birthday and he had wanted to, in lieu of gifts, raise money for the heart and stroke. And that kind of gave us
amazing.
Yeah, it was awesome. I think he was in grade 4 or 5, and he raised over $1,000.
Wow, that is for a kid of that age to forego getting gifts. I mean, at that age, they want gifts for their birthday. So I think that's remarkable, and that speaks volumes as to what you and your husband are doing as parents. I think that's incredible.
Well, and we were amazed by it that he was, willing to kind of go through this sacrifice. But the cool part was that when my husband took him to the local heart and stroke office to give them the money, and he wanted him to be involved in that process as well and kind of see the whole thing through.
Yeah.
And through that, they, ended up talking about fundraising and opportunities to build awareness. And a big thing that came out of that was actually an initiative towards building more awareness on the impact of heart disease on women, and how little research we have on this, sort of women's symptoms of heart attack and stroke. And so, that really sparked our desire to want to do something that could be a really cool, fun event, bring people together. Horseback riding is probably what saved my husband's life, because, he was doing that cardio exercise, and, it was 100% blocked widowmaker lower left descending artery. So it could have gone really, really wrong. And luckily it had very minimal damage, partly because of that exercise. And we thought, okay, how do we bring those worlds together? Let's come up with a horse show that can be a charity horse show to raise money for the Heart and Stroke Foundation and for our local cardiac hospital, which is the South Lake Regional Health Center in Newmarket. And, it was a very complicated process because that wasn't originally the hospital he went to. The one near our house doesn't even have a cardiac unit at all.
Oh,
and
wow.
that really opened our eyes to like the shortcomings of, how our health system works, because while it's so wonderful, we need funding. It doesn't all come from the government. There's a misconception that, hospitals get built by the government and everything's provided. Well, that's not the case. Long story short, we ended up reaching out to a venue that said, we could use their facility, and we were going to have one of their arenas, and it was, starting to kind of strategically get built up. And that was the time of the Pan Am Games, and the schedule completely changed, and suddenly we didn't have that place available.
Wow.
Which was a huge letdown.
Yeah.
And so what ended up happening, coincidentally, is my husband and his business partner in the equestrian sort of horse sales business ended up coming across a stable in Uxbridge, and they bought that stable. And so that so perfectly came into place to be able to have our inaugural show Jump for Heart and all the upcoming charity events out of that location, which
awesome.
was really great.
Serendipitous.
And the best, well, and the best part is that, if we really wanted to have a legitimate horse show, then it was going to have to be a sanctioned horse show in order to have real judges, because those judges can't just come and judge something that's not sanctioned. It kind of goes against our licensing. So it became this whole big thing, and it was an entire weekend of horse shows. And everybody in the community was just, they'd never seen anything like this before. I mean, there's polo for heart, but that's a very different, different type of equestrian sport. And so, for the show jumpers and the eventers, I mean, we had Olympians showing up. We had 70-something-year-old riders that came in and wanted to show their support. It was so cool.
Awesome.
And unfortunately, of course, we had to cancel our third annual one due to COVID. But in the second, in the year before, which was 2019, we actually had the entire surviving members of the gold medal equestrian team from 1968. Wow. And that was really cool.
What an honor.
Yeah. It was such an honor. We couldn't believe that they came. It was so wonderful. I mean, there's a picture of all of them, lined up together, kind of leaning against one of the arena fences. And it's just like, it honestly feels like a piece of history. It was just so validating to see that support. And, ultimately, we're still a new charity and we're still growing. So we hope that we can continue to grow and be able to give more than we have over the years. But I think that even more so is that, bringing in another generation, that younger generation as well of riders that, want to give back and that are also learning about heart disease and how to try to prevent it and how to push for new research, especially on those women's initiatives. That was a really big thing for me. We lost my grandmother, who I never met, at the very early age of, I think she was 51 or 52 when she had her heart attack that ended her life, unfortunately. And
sorry.
My mom's side, that's okay. It was many years ago. My mom, I think, was 19 at the time, and they were 11 children. So I think the youngest was like 11 or 14. And that's a really, really tough situation to go through. And for their father to continue to raise them, I mean, that's such a difficult situation and so life transforming. And so we hope that through Show Jump for Heart, we can continue to bring awareness to it and try to avoid situations like that, because it is so tough on families. Yeah,
heart disease is quite rampant. I mean, my grandmother had a heart attack. She had a quadruple bypass, and so heart disease runs in our family. My mom's had a heart attack, so it's there. It's very prevalent in a lot of families. A lot of families deal with it, and it's not easy.
Yeah, and it's often the silent killer when it comes to people who also have diabetes. So there's many other complicated factors, but I think, the research has been so predominantly men focused because, coming back to what we were talking about, men have been the breadwinner in most families, and that's where the research has gone in, is to try to understand and avoid that. And so, all the all the testing and even the medication, the way they deal with heart disease with women is so different and often goes undiagnosed, which is really heartbreaking.
It is, because look, even just between you and I talking, your grandmother, my mom, my grandmother, it's very prevalent in women, and it's a shame that it's not talked about more and researched more with relation to women as opposed to men. I've had a woman on the show a while back. She is based in Pennsylvania, I believe, and she runs a foundation called Women Who Rock, and it's about women in music and whatnot, but there's a very big health component behind it. And she was saying that a lot of these things, a lot of these illnesses and whatnot, the research is always focused on men, even though it's a predominantly a disease or an illness that women are affected by. They still run the models on men. It's like, it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever.
And the interesting thing is, I think a lot of people don't know, is that heart disease is the number one killer of women.
I didn't know it was the number one. I knew it was very prevalent.
In Canada or North America, it's the number one. It's more than cancer, more than breast cancer.
Wow.
But we just don't hear about it as much. And that's the whole awareness piece, right? There are unfortunately so many diseases out there, but I think just getting educated about what we can do from a preventative standpoint, and then again, like you said, some of it is genetic. So what we have to do to kind of avoid major heart attacks or strokes from happening, those are the things that we strive for, because again, there's so many women-led businesses, there's so many women-led families, there's so many single mothers out there. And people rely on us to
absolutely. Well, women are the strong ones. It's amazing to me. I love what you guys are doing around this, and I love the awareness you're bringing to it. And I'm sure that your charity will only continue to grow and bring more awareness about, and raise money to bring that awareness around and help with around that cause. I think it's amazing. You guys should be very proud of the work you're doing.
Thank you. We appreciate that. It's funny how sometimes when things happen to you, you kind of become awakened to what's out there.
Yes.
And I think this year in general has woken so many of us up about so many things, right? And the beauty is that people are acting on it. And, that's really what matters in life is acting on things and, inciting change. That's key.
You can talk about it all you like, but acting on it is where it counts, and you guys are obviously doing exactly that, and it's amazing to see. And like you said, I think a lot more people are becoming woke or awakened through all of this, and actually putting their money where their mouths are, and taking action and doing things that need to be done. So it's great to see, and you guys, like I said, you guys should be very proud of what you're doing, and I think it's amazing.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Brad. That means a lot.
Now, let's get more into your businesses that you're part of. You're also the marketing manager of Railing Excellence Incorporated, a railing manufacturer business based in Vaughan. Can you tell us a bit about that business?
Sure. So this was all part of that transformation and diversification strategy that we kind of had decided on as a family. And so my husband took about a year of me working and him researching for companies and taking on that role of being a more active father, picking up the kids from school and dropping them off where they needed to go. And luckily through that process, he came across this wonderful railing company, was established in the early 90s and, was a well-run organization, but, they had unfortunately lost a partner to an illness. And so they needed to bring someone else on, and it just kind of worked out for Bashir and I to come on board. And the piece that, we felt was kind of missing within the organization was the marketing piece. There wasn't a department. The website was, fairly outdated, and there wasn't really a lot of social media presence and any advertising or anything like that happening. And so I took on that role. And so since then we've revamped the website. It's actually ready to launch. So that'll probably be up in the next week or so.
Awesome.
and we teamed up with the wonderful people at Living Lux magazine to kind of bring more exposure to the custom home piece of things. So, you know, they make railings for some really large subdivision builders as well, and that's kind of a consistent piece of their business.
Yeah.
And they work with some custom home builders as well. And so I've been kind of building on, you know, my relationship building skills to continue the relationships with those custom home builders and, you know, some of the most beautiful homes in Toronto, in Midtown and sort of, you know, that Lawrence Park, Bridle Path sort of area as well. And, you know, kind of continuing to grow that piece of the business in the luxury market.
Okay. Now, speaking of homes, you yourself started and founded Terrae Home, which is a sustainably-minded home decor brand back in 2020. I mean, wow, in the midst of a pandemic to start a business, it's like, wow, that is incredible. That takes a lot of guts, first of all. I mean, let's be honest, it takes a lot of guts to start a business. You think about all the people that want to but are too scared to, but you doing that and in the midst of a pandemic. Can you tell us a bit about that business and what the inspiration was behind starting that business?
Well, it was interesting how that idea came about because one of the machines actually at Railing Excellence wasn't being used up to full capacity. They just didn't need it, you know, for the entire shift. And we thought, okay, what can we do with this machine time that we have? And, you know, we've got all these carpenters and wonderful woodworkers and, you know, people that really know about wood. And I've always loved, you know, entertaining and home decor and, you know, weddings and tablescapes and that sort of thing. And so we thought, let's develop some prototypes and look at things like, you know, trays and charger plates and coasters and just kind of start with that sort of what we call the signature collection, that basic line of entertaining products. And so, you know, the thought had actually come up right before COVID. And, you know, we were starting to hear about these cases in China and elsewhere. And then, you know, suddenly everything came into Canada. And, you know, in a way, luckily, I mean, that business is considered an essential business because it supports the construction industry. Yeah. But by the same token, things were, you know, slower. The home building was more spaced out. They couldn't have as many people building a home and working on things within the home at the same time. And so, you know, we were also really working towards making sure that no one, you know, was going to get laid off. That was the last thing we wanted to do as business owners, is to, you know, it was already a difficult year. And the last thing we wanted to do was deliver any bad news to someone that they were going to be laid off. And so luckily we were able to avoid that. And part of that came with manufacturing the Terrae Home product, because that actually gave people more hours and more work and kind of balanced things out. So that's sort of how that came about. And, you know, we're so excited about the reception that we've had. I mean, it's just been wonderful to see just how people have received our very sort of deliberate, sustainability focused approach, right? So everything we make is made out of wood. It's all North American wood from a Canadian supplier. I mean, we thought about everything from our packaging to really like the whole life cycle of the product, right? So to me, I want to be able to feel like I'm bringing in something that not only contributes to the Canadian economy, but also that, you know, 500 years down the road, like, where is that wooden tray going to be? Is it going to be able to decompose? And is it going to be able to, you know, biodegrade in a way that doesn't hurt the environment, right? And so part of that thought process came into selecting plant-based conditioning oil and wax for finishing the wood. We didn't want to do a varnish. We didn't want to do anything petroleum-based like mineral oils or anything like that. And everything we buy is Canadian. So even the finishing oils and all of that, they're all made in Canada, and they're completely plant-based and vegan. Yeah, and even the packaging. So we work with a Rainforest Alliance certified packaging company, and so we know that everything we buy as far as boxes and, you know, our whatever we're using to wrap and cushion our products are all recycled, recyclable, and, you know, in some cases home compostable as well. I mean, they're just such a wonderful company. and they've been a great partner to us as well. And so, that's kind of how that signature line started. And then we thought, okay, what else can we do to really boost people up and help other organizations that are Canadian, make it through this very, very difficult time. And so we started bringing on companies to include in our gift sets. It was right before the holidays. It was a perfect time. And, that includes everything from handmade soaps coming from a local farm, like a goat milk farm that uses all their own raw materials. They plant their own lavender and use that in their soaps. It's wonderful. All the way through to honey and barbecue sauces and all kinds of stuff supporting local restaurants as well, with their own proprietary sauces and so on. And so we've really tried to build that community, right? That online community where we can all support each other. And it's been really great. Great partner.
That's what it's all about, right? Is building community. Mm-hmm. I mean, you cannot lose as a community. Everybody wins when we support each other. It's great for everybody. That's awesome.
Yes, and I'm so proud that many of the businesses we've partnered with are women-owned businesses, BIPOC
businesses. Even better. There we go.
Or family-owned, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And that's what we forget sometimes. You see a product, but you forget that behind that product, there's a family that thrives because of that business.
That's awesome.
And we forget that sometimes.
You should be coming up on your 1-year anniversary then for Terrae Home soon.
Well, no, actually we launched in September, so it'll be 6 months in March.
Okay, yeah. Okay. Well, there you go. 6-month anniversary. There you go. That's something to celebrate.
Thank you. Yeah, we've got to celebrate every day, right?
That's right. So, Reem, in addition to all these businesses you run or are part of, you also do a lot of community and philanthropic work. I mean, again, as I said in the beginning, where on earth do you find all the time for all of this? And can you talk to us a bit about your community and philanthropic work that you do?
Sure. This all kind of started actually with my kids' school. So my son, who's in grade 10 now, had started a new school in first grade. And, I had just had my daughter who's 10, and we, at the time she was just a few months old, and I had some time on my hands. I was sort of on mat leave, of course, never really ever on mat leave, because when you own a company, you're always working.
Yeah.
And I got introduced to an annual auction that they run every year. It's a not-for-profit school, and so they rely on fundraising for any large capital expenditures. And they had this wonderful initiative to rebuild their senior school. And so we had an opportunity to attend their auction actually prior to my son starting. So it was the May before he started in 2011. And somehow I got introduced into, being a part of that auction donation committee. And that was a really wonderful opportunity. The co-chair at the time was Sylvia Mantella, who is a wonderful friend and an amazing philanthropist. I look up to her and so many others that I've met along the way that have kind of paved the way for me into, this world that I really wasn't aware of, to be honest with you. And so that's how it started. And through that, I got recruited into the Parents Association. And so I started first as kind of just some general member at large. And then they had me do the volunteer liaison role. And then they recruited me to be the VP and then the president. So it's a 3-year term, VP president, past president. So that was completed in the last school year. So I've actually been able to breathe a little bit this year.
Thankfully, right?
That was a lot of work.
It came at a good time then.
You know what? It was a wonderful opportunity, and I got to be involved in so many different events and meet so many people and learn from so many people. And that's really what it's all about. I mean, there's so many mothers and women out there that do so much. And I think when you're passionate about it, you will make the time for it.
Absolutely.
And I would make sure that I scheduled those mornings off, and, they were a huge priority in my life. And you need that balance, right? You need to do things for other people as well.
For sure.
a couple of years ago, I really got into yoga, and I've been doing home-based yoga. I don't know if you've ever heard of Yoga with Adrienne, but
No.
she always says, she says something to the effect of, you know, breathe in the love, and then breathe the love out. And I always used to think, why would you breathe love out? Why wouldn't you breathe the bad stuff out? But you know what? You have to give out good.
Yes.
In order to receive good.
That's
you know,
right.
You have to be able to give and then receive. You cannot receive if you can't give.
For sure. I would agree 100%. So why is volunteer and philanthropic work so important to you and such a big part of your life now?
Well, I think first and foremost, I want to be a real role model for my kids. I mean, you can talk the talk, but if you don't walk the walk, it's not effective. I mean, I think as a part of parenting, you have to be that person that they can emulate and learn from. And I've been so lucky to have people around me that have been so generous and so giving. And I mean, you know, as a young teenager, you know, I was involved a little bit here and there with food banks and things like that, and we would do different field trips through the school. But only once I had kind of become a mother did my eyes open up to so many other things that people face. You know, there's health issues that young children face that they should never have to, and what it puts families through. You know, I have a good friend who unfortunately lost her son to a congenital heart defect, and he was born with this heart defect. And as they were dealing with all these surgeries at such a young age, their daughter, who was 3 at the time, was diagnosed with brain cancer.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, it's just so heartbreaking. And I mean, I would see the things that she was doing, and she was going about her life, and, you know, just kind of, it was just so inspirational to me. And I don't know where mothers and women that are going through that get their strength. I really have no idea. And so I think, to me, just going through my own experiences and experiences of my friends and people around me just kind of made me feel like, you know what, if I'm healthy, if I'm strong, and, you know, if I have the time, why can't I be involved in giving back? I mean, we all need each other. We all need that support. And again, it doesn't have to be financial. It can just be your time. You can be a mentor. There's so many things we can learn from. And, you know, I have had some wonderful friends that I've learned so much from, and they've been able to turn around and tell me that they've learned from me. And I always find that surprising, you know, because, you know, but then again, we learn from our children too, and they supposedly have less experience from us, than us, but we can learn from anybody around us. And so I feel like we can also give and teach, you know, and not only is that rewarding and self-actualizing, but it also passes on strength and determination and motivation to other generations as well.
For sure. It's infectious. When people see you doing good, they want to do good, and it just carries on. So it's amazing to be able to do that and to be able to give back.
And there's karma too, right?
That's right. That's right. Reem, to date, what would you say is your biggest high or your greatest win?
You know, of course, it's being a mother. I mean, who's going to deny that? But if you're asking me about the entrepreneurship side of things, I would say probably Terrae Home and establishing that. Because for the first time in my career, I had created a company that was based on a tangible product. Everything that I'd done before then was more service-oriented and more reliant on, you know, me providing a service or my team providing a service. But the thing about Terrae Home is that, you know, hopefully eventually at some point, it'll grow to the point where, you know, I can, through that, be a job creator. And you know, I've helped so many companies place people through recruitment, but I've never had the power to create jobs. And I think that that's something that we desperately need, is, you know, in our society, in our economy, is to create jobs for people. And the only way to do that is to grow a company that's scalable, that, you know, even if I wasn't going in there every day, it was still going to be running, and there would be a team of, you know, a manufacturing team behind me that can, continue to grow and continue to support their families.
For sure. What do you think your unique skill set or superpower is that's helped you become so successful?
I don't know. I don't know that I have a superpower.
Everybody has a superpower.
I would hope that, somewhere between my passion and my outspokenness is something out there that might be helping make things move and shake. I'm definitely a doer. I mean, I'm not one to overanalyze things. And, I'm going to quote my husband. I think he's kind of changed around something that's out there, which is, bite more than you can chew and chew real hard. I think the original quote is chew like hell. Most people kind of tell you not to bite more than you can chew.
Yes, that's right.
And this is the exact opposite. And you know what? That's the only way you continue to grow and challenge yourself. So I'd say, listening to him might be the superpower. Listening is a really hard thing to do. A lot of people don't know how to do it. And yeah, I think not overanalyzing and just doing. I think that's what makes you move forward.
Yeah, a lot of people do have problems listening. And a friend of mine has this quote. He says, and it's centered around this. It's like, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, but people still don't. Yeah.
It's so much easier to honestly, talk than listen.
People just want to be heard. That's all.
Yeah. And I think sometimes even when we think we're listening, we're just thinking of how we're going to respond, Yes. And I think that just puts a different vibe out there than what we all need to be seeing in the world right now, which is just a lot more listening and caring. Because I think that, so many people out there are going through anxiety and mental health issues, and they just need to be listened to. Sure. And so, it's certainly something that I strive to work on every day. I'm not perfect at listening, that's for sure. But we all have those things that we can work on. And I know that's, you're right. I've heard that before. We have 2 ears for a reason, and sometimes we forget that. And we need to be reminded.
Yeah. I love that quote. I think it's awesome. Mm-hmm. So speaking of success, how do you define success? What does that word mean to you?
I think success to me ties to contentment and happiness. Financials, money, that's just a byproduct. So I think that if you are content and confident that what you're doing in your life, you're giving it your all, I think that's what success is. And it comes with balance because, you can be successful. A lot of people are really successful at their careers and fail in relationships, or vice versa. And it's really hard to find that balance. And so, you can only just try to make your next day better than the last. So to me, that's success.
I love it. What would you say is one of the best pieces of advice you've ever received?
Probably that bite more than you can chew and chew real hard, to be honest.
Chew like hell. I
chew
love
like
that quote.
hell.
I've never heard that quote before. I love it.
You know what? Just think about how it can apply to so many things in your life.
Yes.
and sometimes that's just the push you need to jump into the deep end, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Most times things are not as difficult as you think they're going to be.
Yes,
so,
very true. Yeah, I think we tend to build them up more in our minds and make them more difficult than they actually are.
Well, yeah, that's what it is, right?
For sure. What would you say is one of the most important things you've learned in your life? And what was your life like before learning it? And what was your life like after learning it?
I think this was a couple of years ago when I realized that I really needed to take care of myself more. Again, as you've said, I've taken on so much in life and I love that. I enjoy that. But as they say, you can't pour from an empty cup, right? Or an empty pitcher. And so I really consciously took to yoga and meditation and exercise and kind of being a little bit more attentive to my physical health and giving myself that time. I never made the time. And I think you can always carve out time for yourself.
Yes.
but you have to really make a conscious choice. And so how I started is I just said, I'm going to make this commitment. When I make a commitment, I really stick to it, Brad. I think that's something, maybe that's my superpower.
There you go. Commitment.
Commitment. So I committed to, a daily yoga session, and then I, consequently just added on to it. And, if I hadn't gotten to it till 10 p.m., I would do it at 10 p.m. I just had to get it done before I went to bed. And eventually I found my routine. So it's more of a morning thing now, but
right.
I never let something that was happening in the morning I never let that be an excuse for skipping the day. I always found another time to do it. It didn't matter if it was midnight. And so, that was very life-changing for me. That allows me to take a breather, that allows me to start my day in a positive note and be grateful for the day I have ahead. And I think I wish that I had known that it was going to be so impactful many years ago. I would have started this many, many years ago. I had lots of friends that encouraged me to do yoga, and I just kind of thought, that's not for me. That's like too slow, and I had to go, and boy, was I wrong.
Well, you found it now, so that's what's important, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
It gives you strength and balance, and that's what you need to navigate through life.
For sure. What makes you feel inspired or like your best self?
I think that being at home with my family, I've got to do a lot of that this year. And, we thought we spent lots of time together, but that was an understatement compared to what this year has been. And I think it's just brought us closer together. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Who would you say have been the three most influential people in your life?
Well, definitely my parents. I mean, they raised me and they educated me, and I think they gave me the confidence that I needed to make the decisions that I've needed to make in my life. So my parents for sure. My husband, because he's kind of pushed me towards entrepreneurship and, knowing that I can be successful and supporting me throughout. I mean, he's a wonderful life partner in so many ways, and I think we make a great team. And I would say the third person that's really been impactful is my mother-in-law. Okay. She's in her 80s now. She's in her mid 80s, and she is a powerhouse, Brad. I mean,
I love it. In her 80s.
She lived an awesome life. Her stories. I mean, she lived in Chicago in the 50s. She went to the London School of Economics as a new mom and kind of left everything and moved from India to London to pursue her PhD, which was, so rare in those times.
For sure.
In the 50s.
Yeah.
And she's been on the board of Indian Airlines. Like, she's had quite the life.
She is
been a mother of five and raised five amazing children who are all so educated and wonderful people. I mean, she is an inspiration. That is for sure.
Awesome.
She's actually the reason why I feel that you can have it all. Like, you can have the career and the children and the successful, marriage life and all of it. I mean, when you see it in front of you, you know that it's possible.
For sure.
And so she's definitely my role model when it comes to that.
But so often women get told you can't have it all. And again, that's another thing that I think that goes back to that 1940s old boys club mentality too, right? Where, yes, you can have it all. You can have the career. You can have the marriage. You can be a mother. You can have all of that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, she became the dean of her department in the university, and, she worked in the London, I think it was the London School of Economics library with like the former Prime Minister of India now. And
wow.
I mean, it's just like, I think when you go out there and you're not afraid and you travel and go to different places and get educated. You become so exposed to different things that you never would have if you just kind of stayed in your bubble. And I think that she was just pushed the envelope in so many ways. It is so inspirational.
Powerhouse indeed. That's amazing. Love it.
Yeah.
You have a great role model there for sure.
I do. And those strong women are the ones that, raise the next generation and raise the men. They raise the men that know that their wives can do all that their mothers did. And that's what we need more of.
Sure.
We
Trailblazers. Absolutely.
That's it.
What was a turning point in your life and how did that affect you?
I think it was my husband having his heart attack. Our kids were really young. I mean, they were 3 and 9 at the time, and that was really tough. And that actually made me realize that no matter how much you plan for things will go a certain way because they're just meant to go that way. And it was March break, and we were supposed to be in the Caribbean, and it just didn't work out. We didn't end up going. And honestly, thank God that we didn't, because I don't know how we would have dealt with it, trying to fly back or trying to have an open heart surgery over there. Like, I don't know anything about their healthcare system there. So I'm just so thankful. And we were so blessed that, he got through it, but more so it really opened up our eyes on, that we can get through things, and we do need to, take care of ourselves for our family. And we needed to rethink how we were working, the long hours and, the stress and all of that. And so even though it seems like there's so much more stuff we're doing now, we don't let those day-to-day stresses bother us. And you kind of just have to go with the flow, and things will always work out.
Yeah, they will. Definitely. What makes you feel inspired or like your best self?
I think that like sitting down and helping someone, I do a lot of that in recruiting, sitting down with someone and talking through their career and what they want to do, and telling them that they can pursue something and this is the path to do it. Only because I've seen the resumes of all the people that have, and I've talked to those people. I know it can be done. So kind of being an advisor, I guess, I find. Yeah.
Okay. What is one of your favorite quotes?
There are many, but I always come across things online and end up screenshotting them on my phone. And there was one I actually saw that came to me today.
Oh, okay.
It was this picture of a boy sitting on a horse, staring at some clouds. And he says, "Those are dark clouds." And the horse replies, "Yes, but they will move on. The blue sky above never leaves." And I just thought, wow, this is so
that's profound,
meaningful for this time in our lives where all of us are going through so much. And the blue sky is always constant. Clouds come and go. I mean, today there's a snowstorm. Tomorrow there'll be sun.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, I really loved it. I don't know the source, but I just
that really resonates. That's a great quote. What does the word empowerment mean to you?
I think empowerment means to me power from within. Your soul, your purpose, finding that and then acting on that. I think that's empowerment. It doesn't come from, we all love external validation and, compliments from others, but I think it's the power within you. We all have the power as long as we put our minds to it.
Yes. Yeah. And put in the work. Yes. So we're going to do a little rapid fire section here for the next bunch of questions. 1, 2, 3, 4 word answer type thing. Okay.
Okay. All right. I'll try.
How would you describe yourself in one word?
Wow. Motivated.
If you were writing your autobiography, what would the title be?
Wow, these are tough. Just do it. Just do it.
What's the first?
Don't overthink.
Okay, don't overthink. All right. What's the first thing you notice about a person?
Their aura, their demeanor.
What's the first thing you think when I say the word future?
Hope.
If you could change one thing about the world, what would you change?
This is something that really bothers me. I would change the existence of plastic.
Okay.
I think that, you can do all the carbon offsets of everything else, but you cannot remove plastic. Mm-hmm. So I wish that was never invented at all. That and Teflon. That was more than 2-3 words. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay, Reem. You're passionate about what you think on that one.
That's
if you
right.
came with a warning label, what would yours say?
Beware of tiny package. I'm 5'2".
If you had a theme song that played every time you walked into a room, what song would that be?
Wow. I think Girl on Fire by Alicia Keys comes to mind.
Yeah, I would say that would fit for you.
I really like that song. I don't know. It gets me happy and excited.
All right. What's one thing you want but cannot buy with money?
Time.
Entrepreneur life is?
Fulfilling.
If I had an extra hour a day, I would?
Brad, if I can be honest, I would sleep.
Okay.
I would probably just take that extra hour of sleep.
Okay. Mom life is?
Extremely rewarding.
My favorite way to unwind is?
Spend time with my family.
The last book or podcast I listened to or read was?
I wish I could have more time to read books. Actually, I listened to your podcast with Joan Kelly Walker. That was great.
Joan, yes, she's amazing. That concludes our rapid fire section.
Excellent.
Who in your life?
How'd I do?
You did great. You did really well. Don't worry. Who in your life has had the biggest impact on you and why?
I think my husband has. I think he's always been my cheerleader.
Mm-hmm.
He's always told me that I can do it. And sometimes you just need to hear that to actually get things done.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if it wasn't for his support with the children and I think that all of that together has really helped me become a better person and given me the time that I've needed to not only have this career that I have, but also to be able to give back and just be creative and think of other ideas that, of things
Mm-hmm.
that I want to be doing and take things to the next level. Yeah. I'm very lucky.
Sounds like it. What's the most recent investment you've made in yourself?
I think I've just been more open to learning about different things. Just in the last year, I've spent so much time learning about what's important to me. I would say, when you know what that is, you can really invest in yourself.
Yeah.
Knowing my passions. Between, learning about like the railing and building industry and home decor and everything that comes with it, I think that just opened up opportunities for me to be exposed to individuals that have taught me so much. And I think that in a way has been an investment in myself. And hopefully I can continue to do that with others.
Mm-hmm. What would you say is your personal motto?
I think it's not to be afraid of failure.
Speaking of failure, what do you think is the most common reason for people failing or giving up?
I think that we don't hear enough stories about what it actually takes to be successful. We only see that end result. And so when we face one failure, which is, an obstacle or a challenge, and we don't realize that, we're going to keep seeing them through our entire life, then sometimes people give up.
Okay.
And that's why I think it's so important to do podcasts like this, is to share that and share our stories with each other, because that's when we have the true picture of what success looks like. It's full of failure.
Yeah, absolutely. People don't talk, and this is one thing that I've noticed and I've talked about quite a few times, is that with entrepreneurship in particular, we don't talk enough about the downsides of it, because there are downsides. It's not all puppy dogs and rainbows and ice cream. It's a lot of work. There's, like you said, there's failures, and that's how we learn, but it's not talked about. We only see the good side of things. I had one of my guests say that we're talking about social media and how everyone's social media is just the highlight reel that you're seeing of their lives. You don't see the other side of things. And I think we need to talk more about the downside of entrepreneurship and let people know that there is another side to it. It's not all happiness, and it's a lot of work, and there's a lot of trials and tribulations, but it does not get talked about enough.
Yeah, I think that applies to life in general. I mean, you know, so many things. You can look at even just a beautiful painting, and you know, all you're seeing is the end result, but you don't know all the blood, sweat, and tears that go into it, and all the sacrifices you have to make to be an artist in this world, for example. So yeah, there's you know, or you see someone with a great, you know, who's in great shape, but you don't realize what it takes to actually go through the rigorous exercise and all of that, and the food sacrifices to get there. So, you know, I think that we just all have to, I think the onus does also fall on us to learn about what those journeys look like and seek out mentors to give us a full picture of that, because most of the things that we think are failures are just little challenges. They're not actually failures. That's right.
If you could step into my shoes, what would you have asked yourself that I didn't ask you?
Well, I guess, what's your long-term plan? Like, where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Okay, like there you go. Where do you see yourself in 10 years?
I knew that was going to happen.
You should have just said, nothing, Brad.
Well, I guess in 10 years, my kids might be out of the house. So that's kind of like heartbreaking. I don't know. Where do I see myself in 10 years? You know, from a career perspective, I would love to see Terrae Home continue to grow. I would love to see it become a lifestyle brand, not just a home decor brand. And I would love to do more charity work. This has been a tough year for that. So hopefully over the next coming years, I'll get more exposed to other places that are in need, and hopefully I can contribute somehow.
Excellent. I'm sure you will. If you could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would that piece of advice be?
I think taking care of my health, like exercising more and doing yoga. I think if I had known to do that sooner, I would have probably had a better balance earlier on in my life. There were times in my life when we were, you know, bootstrapping new businesses, and startup life is, you know, really crazy. And just, you know, I don't think I took time for myself, and it was just a lot of hustle, and I wouldn't make time to eat properly, and we'd go out for dinner a lot. That was just, you know, the food was good, but it's probably not very healthy long term. So, I think more of that, just more self-care.
And lastly, if you were to deliver your last 30-second speech to the world, what would that last 30 seconds sound like?
Wow. I think I would, first of all, thank my family for all they've taught me. And I would tell them that I'll always be there with them, watching them, and making sure that everything goes okay for them. And I would tell the world to be kinder to each other, and to think about their consequences of their actions with respect to other humans, but also to animals and to the earth, and to consider the path of peace. There's just so much violence and anger in the world. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that was 30 seconds.
That's totally fine. That's what you feel would be the words you would impart. That's awesome. I love it. Reem, thank you so much for taking the time to be here and share your story, your journey. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you. We've had some laughs. It's been a great conversation, and just keep doing the amazing work that you're doing. I think it's incredible. All the philanthropic and community work you're doing. It's beautiful. So Thank you. I appreciate you, and I appreciate everything you're doing, and I appreciate you being part of the Empowerography community.
Thank you, Brad. I'm looking forward to hearing the rest of your podcast and your next big event. I'm excited about it.
Thank you. Once again, my name is Brad Walsh, host of your Empowerography podcast. Today, my guest has been Reem Khan. She is a diversified serial entrepreneur based in King City. Thanks so much, Reem. I hope you have an amazing afternoon.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you very much for listening to this podcast. If you haven't yet, please be sure to subscribe, rate, review, and share with all your friends. You can find me at viseuphoria.ca and follow me on Instagram at Empowerography Podcast and on Facebook at Empowerography. Please join me next time for another inspirational story from yet another amazing woman.